I'm obsessed with your work. So how does it come from in your head to, as an example, the piece behind?
I could back up a little bit and say I had amazing art educators in college. You know, I couldn't wait to get out of high school, couldn't wait. And so I tried to graduate early and get out and started meeting these amazing artists in Las Vegas, of all places. And this art history teacher started exposing us to a lot of other like primitive art, you know, and cave art. And I was so fascinated by those caves. And I started thinking about the communication. And so I did like just these pieces that were kind of just cave wall pieces with just scores and marks and X's and lines. Mm-hmm. And I started thinking about how, at what point did 2 crossed lines become an X? And at what point did 3, or this bent line, come to mean 3? And then we all started to agree on this universal language of art, of symbols that all started to make sense. And as it progressed, and I did grow up in Vegas, and we'd hike out in the desert, and I'd see these old rusted signs, and I had a real affinity for like old rusted things that were falling apart and being reclaimed, you know, and taken back to the earth, you know. And it was like kind of being stripped back. And grew up in Vegas, I saw a lot of these, you know, beautiful signs and beautiful neon signs at the same time. And there was always this like kind of strange dichotomy between what was new at one point and what was the communication at one point. Mm-hmm. These massive neon signs on the side of the road. And it started to kind of work its way into my love of these cave paintings, because that language became the new language to try to communicate. Mm-hmm. And so instead of making a deer on a cave wall to show that you were there, or to let someone else see that you had killed this many deer, now you're trying to capture somebody's attention at 70 miles an hour flying down a highway. And how do you do that? Well, you make this massive neon thing that makes you look away from the road long enough and to see instantly what it is. That's a motel. Look at that place. Look at that. I mean, and so I became then fascinated with these old signs. Without light, you see no art. And I like that kind of nod to art and neon and the craft of it, and so that kind of captivated me. The piece over here, which you can't see, Saints and Sinners, was another one that I happened to see in outside Santa Fe, in a little town called Espanola, and it's a working neon sign, and I'm working on a couple other pieces of kind of defunct signs. And I've moved, and some of my work is now moving into totally destroyed signs, which there's a certain beauty to me, in, like you said, beautiful decay. There's a certain beauty in seeing these totally destroyed pieces, and yet the skeleton of it is still there.
Mm-hmm. And what it sort of evolved to.
Yeah, absolutely, what's happening to it in the elements, you know, on its own, that, I don't know, wakes me up in the middle of the night and makes me paint these crazy things. I don't know. I would say whatever drives me the craziest gets painted. Very, you know, because I have sketchbooks full of ideas, and I keep a sketchbook by my bed. I taught myself years ago to, I think it was Wayne Dyer or somebody. I read this book, and it said, if things are waking you up at night, teach yourself, put a book by the bed, teach yourself, wake up, write it down, go back to sleep. You won't lay there in bed.
But that's
you won't
really
lay there in bed like going, I gotta remember that thing. I gotta remember that thing. I gotta remember that thing. A, you won't remember it. B, you'll get a horrible night's sleep.
Yeah. Hey, this is Dena. So if you liked that little snippet, there's more. Keep watching.